Hey guys, so I know a lot of you had some questions about how the skirt is done. So I wanted to do a quick video on how I get that pinned up. First, I want to explain what I mean by width of tulle, because that was confusing for some of you. So in the cutting chart for style A and B, you will see that it says to cut width of tulle by, for example, 20.5 inches. And that would be for style A. So what I mean by width of tulle is this tulle would be straight off the bolt. I have it on a roll, but you guys probably have it on a bolt. The width would be from selvage to selvage. So you're not making it any shorter this way. You will measure out the length you need and then cut it. And that's what I mean by width of tulle. So with that explained, let's go ahead and start pinning our skirt. I've already gathered everything. So you should have your lining already gathered to match up with your bodice. And then since the tulle I'm using this round is not 108 inches, it's only, I think, 52 inches, I have 12 different panels here instead of only 6. So some of you had questions on how this is done, and some of you thought that maybe I left out the step of sewing your panels together, and we're actually not going to sew our panels together because that restricts the movement of the tulle, so it won't be as flowy if we were to sew the panels together on the side seams. Plus it looks unsightly as you can see the seam because tulle is see-through. So to start, we're going to take our first panel of tulle, any one, it doesn't matter, and you can start pinning it anywhere. I prefer not to start on the side seams. I prefer to start in the center back because wherever you start will most likely end up being the bulkiest area, and let's face it, we all like more fluff in the back. So just take it, start with your one edge, any one edge, and pin it in place. Now, we're not trying to make this fit around the entire skirt. We certainly don't want it to stop at the side seam and then start at the side seam every time. We want to be continuously pinning each piece. So just kind of work the first panel around the skirt as far as it will go. It doesn't matter where it ends. We will pick up wherever it ends with the next panel. So right here I'm pinning just past my side seam, and I'm going to keep going with that. Try and kind of space it out quite a bit because you have so many layers to pin, and we're pinning each layer individually. So if you're pinning your first layer only like an inch apart, you're going to end up not having any room for pins later. So let's just keep going around. I hope that you guys are able to see this okay. Alright, now here's the end of my first panel, and as you can see, it does not quite make it to the beginning of our first panel, and that's fine. That's the way we want it. We don't want it to match up. And you know, if you didn't gather your tulle very much and it does, that's fine. It just won't be as fluffy if it's not gathered as much. So now here's where the confusion was. Starting the second panel, we are going to overlap it by roughly an inch. So you don't want to start it right where you ended. You want to take your second panel and overlap it. See, mine ends right here. So I'm going to start the second panel 1 inch back from the edge of the first panel. And I'm going to pin that there. And then just as we did with the first panel, I am going to just pin it around our lining as far as it will go. It really doesn't matter how far it goes, you know, so long as it's not all ending in the same spot, because then you would have too much, it would be too thick for one area, and your sewing machine probably wouldn't be too happy with you. So I'm just going to keep pinning the second panel around. Again, pin it kind of wide, not so close together, because with each layer you're putting more and more pins into the previous layers, so you know each spot will get pinned down. Okay, now here's the end of my second panel, and as you can see, it's not ending where the last one started or ended. It's just, you know, I think this is the middle of the first panel possibly. So let me get that pinned right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more panel just to show you guys that you just continue to do that with each panel, but just in case. Okay, so here's my panel number 2. I know that's kind of hard, purple on top of purple. Here, see, panel number 2. And I'm taking panel number 3, and I'm going to go back an inch from where the last panel ended so that it's overlapped. And that's where I'm going to start the next panel. And then again, just like the last 2 layers, I'm just going to take it around the skirt as far as it'll go. And you're going to want to do that with all of your panels, whether you have 6 panels or 12 panels, or, you know, if you're really daring and decide to do like 20 panels, that's completely up to you. I wouldn't suggest 20, that might be a bit excessive. Now also another thing, if your tool is sticking up above the lining, like mine is here, I didn't sew it very straight, that's really not that big of a deal, not with tulle. I mean, tulle's going to go crazy and kind of do its own thing anyways when it's fluffed up, so, you know, if it ends up slightly uneven, it's really, really not a big deal. I promise nobody's even going to notice, not unless, you know, you've got it like 6 inches above the waistline. But, you know, just a ½ inch like this, really, it's not going to matter. Plus, you could pull it down when you're sewing. And as you know, you'll go back through and rip out your gathering stitches later, so those won't be seen either. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my last few pins real quick on this 3rd panel. And I think that you guys probably get the point pretty well now, and if not, you know, I can easily answer more questions. I just thought maybe a video would be more helpful. So here's my last pin. And there you go. There's 3 panels. You can see it's nice and fluffy, and without side seams, it looks a lot better. And that's how you do it. You're just going to keep pinning all of your panels that way until you pin the last one, and then go ahead and attach your bodice to it. It's that simple. No side seams. It looks a lot better, and it flows really well. So I hope that this helped you out, guys. Thanks a lot.